Hello and welcome to MDL Voices, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of One Team MDL. Each episode will shine a light on the people driving MDL success, engineers, project managers and experts, bringing hands-on experience and real-world insight to everyday flex lay challenge. From offshore campaigns to onshore operations, these are the stories, innovations and experiences that make MDL the partner of choice for flexible handling anywhere in the world. We are right here in the control room, the hub of MDL in Aberdeen HQ. Today we're going to discuss two journeys at MDL over 12 years, consistency shaping customer experience. I'm delighted to be joined today on the podcast by Alexander Wilson, your head of sales and FlexLay.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah. And also Stephen McAldin, who is head of tendering. Hello to you both.
Hello.
So let's find out a little bit about you to kick things off. So Alexander, do you want to go first? Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are now.
Sure. So I guess my MDL journey started almost 12 years ago to the day, really. It was in December when I started. But before that, my background was actually completely different to subsea engineering offshore. I studied architecture at university and worked as an architect for a few years in a small rural practice. So when I joined MDL, it was a bit of a change industry-wise. I joined MDL after meeting Derek at Offshore Europe. And I started MDL. My life here as a draftsman in the basement of our Aberdeen office at the time. It was an old house that we worked in. And over the years I progressed from being a draftsman to project engineer, project manager, and kind of really was part of the startup of our FlexLay business with our equipment and people going offshore to vessels all over the world. So between projects, project management, a bit of tendering, a bit of sales, and I've kind of ended up in a head of sales position. So
right,
it's going to be my journey.
That is an interesting journey. So Stephen, what about you?
It's not too dissimilar, to be honest.
Okay.
I also studied architectural technology at university in Aberdeen and struggled to find a job actually after completing that degree. So I was actually doing gardening before I joined MDL.
Actual gardening?
Actual gardening, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I want to get some tips for my grass. We'll do that later on, maybe after the podcast.
An avid lawn care.
So from gardening to what happened next?
So I actually, I think it was a recruitment agency that had my CV that must have passed it on to MDL, Derek in particular. So I turned up on a Saturday morning in full shirt and tie, and Derek was there in his civvies. So I felt way overdressed, but obviously he saw something in me. And then I started not long after that in the drawing office, similar to Alexander, doing drafting, 3D modelling in our very first office, which was a lot smaller than this, and worked in various roles after the drafting side. I've been involved with project delivery for probably most of my MDL career, transitioning into the front end and supporting sales to early kind of tendering, even though I didn't really know what that was at the time, and
right.
Then more officially into tendering, into my role just now as head of tendering.
Okay, interesting that you both started in architecture. We'll probably touch on that a little bit later, but 12 years is quite a long time to spend in one company, which is obviously a very positive thing for MDL. So we're going to chat about culture a little bit. But first, I want to take it a step back because I believe you have been here for 12 years, but not in this office. And there's been some rather interesting places that you may have worked at. I mean, I've heard something about a porta cabin. You mentioned a basement. Tell us a little bit more about these early days and some of these quite interesting offices that you worked in.
You're probably best to speak about Spade Mill Lane.
Yeah, so when I joined MDL, we were in Spade Mill Lane in Aberdeen, and when I turned up for my interview, I saw all these grand houses and thought, oh wow, it's going to be an impressive office.
Right.
And I was guided up through Google Maps to the back of the big houses into a darker lane, narrower lane, and our office was actually a converted shed. I would call
Wow.
A room above a garage.
Yes, a room above a garage. Sorry, converted garage, double. Did have 2 stories, to be fair, but it was nice. It certainly did the job at the time, but there was only room for a boardroom table. I think there was 4 desks. Maybe I think we squeezed 5 in at one point. The toilet was right off the boardroom table, so that was interesting when if there was meetings ongoing and you needed to use the bathroom. But I can't remember how long we were there for, but certainly a few months, and then we transitioned into the D Street office.
Okay.
Which was, for me, going from Spade Mill Lane to that was an eye opener.
So a step up.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
And it was really like, wow, this is amazing, this office, which is funny to look back on now. But yeah.
Sorry, Alexander, was there any standout locations for you?
Well, when I started, I started in D Street, although I was at Spade Mill Lane once, but I started in D Street as well, and the drawn office was on the basement level, so you were kind of looking up and you could kind of see the car headlights coming in as you got in the morning. So that was interesting, probably lack of daylight or whatever, but that was good. And then I think we probably both transitioned in were projects roles up to Peterhead, was kind of where our main the yard in the operations facility was, which kind of suited us. We're both from that area or live up in that area. Okay. So that was good from a commuting point of view, but the facility was, I think clients were always really surprised to think, wow, you build this amazing equipment and you do all this amazing stuff here. It was almost like a backyard kind of garage facility, but it improved over the years. I think we had 1 yard, and then we had 2 yards separate, and then eventually we got the 3rd yard in the middle, and there was kind of always expansion, and at some points there was porta cabins to fit extra people in, and probably the most interesting office we had there was up in the rafters. There was a small office there, and I remember my first desk in Peterhead was actually probably on the corner of Stephen's desk. I didn't have space for a notebook and a keyboard, so I had to decide if I was writing or typing, so it's a bit of a change compared to where we are now. So.
Was there a favourite or a least favourite?
Well, for me, the corner of the desk was my least favourite, but because it was in the rafters of an old kind of steel shed as well, it was roasting hot in the summer, freezing cold in the winter. So that was probably a least favourite, I would say.
Yeah, that was probably not the best. Certainly comparing to all the locations we've been in now, but we've always made it work, and it's we've always been in an environment surrounded by a good team, good people.
Yeah.
So no matter where we've sat over the years, it's always been good fun.
And I'm getting a sense that One Team MDL is very important. There's certainly a great culture here. It's really interesting to hear that you've gone from basically porta cabin, rafters in the roof, to this fantastic facility here in Aberdeen. So it's really interesting. I want to go back to your time as architect. So talk me through this. How does that work in terms of, you're now experts in a very different field. Is there any skills that you've taken from architecture that you put into play in your current role? Do you want to take this one up?
I mean, I think there's probably quite a lot transferable in a weird way. I think probably first thing to say for me, my background, my family is all came to the fishing industry.
Okay.
So obviously it's where MDL started back in the day. Did it kind of working up the harbour in Peterhead. So the kind of maritime environment's always kind of been in my blood, if you like. But in terms of the transferableness from being an architect to MDL, I think the obvious thing in the early days would have been the skills of reading drawings and understanding visuals, and how a deck plan works compared to how a house plan works. If you kind of have got that visual mindset, that obviously helps. But I think a lot of an architect's job is also project management as well. So in terms of managing what happens on site, and are people following the drawings and that kind of thing. So whether you're building a house or a real drive or a tensioner or something bigger,
Yeah.
there's quite a lot of transferableness in there, and I think probably spending more time at MDL, you then pick up different roles, and obviously we're both in the front end of the business now in terms of selling MDL as well. So as an architect, you kind of have to do a bit of that as well.
It's amazing how
Presentations and that kind of thing.
much we will often talk about how, the skills that, we'll reminisce about something at uni do in our course, and it's like almost like you learned it back then, and you're using it now, or the similarities. So
It's good to know that all those years studying as an architect haven't gone to waste, and you can still apply those in your current day job. Do you miss it at all? Do you ever look at buildings and think, oh, I wish I designed that?
Sometimes. I mean, it's maybe different, but for me, there's a small portfolio of buildings that were built, so I kind of do look back on that in fondness. But I think I also look back on the journey at MDL with a lot of fondness as well, and I like no regrets kind of thing, like where I think everything that you've done kind of builds up to where you are today. So yeah, no regrets.
I'm glad you've said no regrets, because I've heard something about your early days that I wanted to quiz you on a little bit. I hear that there's an iconic promo video that famously includes your hand, a marker pen, and outline of a tensioner. Can you tell us more about this?
I wondered if that was going to come up. That's probably why we mentioned Spade Mill Lane, because that's my one experience going back to Spade Mill Lane. There was a circular window that the guy who was, I guess, in charge of doing the ads and the video at the time, he really liked this circular window, and he liked the shadows and everything. He said, all right, come with me, I want you to draw a tensioner. I think it was my second day at MDL. And I'm not ashamed to admit I didn't even know what a tensioner was at that point, because I was used to drawing houses. But he said, oh, you're an architect, you can draw me a tensioner. So I think I spoke to a couple of people about what do I need to draw. I printed off a picture, had a blank bit of paper, and basically traced a picture of a tensioner, and it's ended up in I don't know how many promo videos over the years, but I think it's a very brief moment on the promo videos, and it looks kind of cool that somebody's sketching a tensioner. But for me, it was it was a bit cringing because I didn't know what I was drawing.
It's still being used today, and are you still getting ripped for it?
Pretty much, yes. Pretty much. The hairline's obviously a wee bit different as well, so there's a few reasons to get ripped. Yeah.
Well, great. Look, you're experienced in being on video, so that's good. Very useful for today. So 12 years, we've spoke about how long a time that is. You've probably seen a lot of real big milestones that have shaped MDL and kind of got us to where we are today. Do you have any kind of standout moments during your 12 years with the company?
Yeah. Well, I think for the first thing that comes to mind in milestones is kind of back to the facilities, the changes in the facilities, both from an office perspective and the manufacturing side.
Yeah.
Moving from, the growth in team at every transition of facilities just been quite, to look back on it, certainly like, wow, those were some big steps and big commitments at the time, because it wasn't always easy for the business, Derek, the owners, to make some of those decisions. So it's good to look back on it and in good light, and those are probably my standout memories, other than the equipment itself.
Yeah.
I would probably go into that, but
yeah, Alexander.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I agree with everything that Stephen said, but I think in terms of milestone moments, primarily in our early years, MDL was a design and build company, so we designed equipment, we built equipment, and I think things like the VLS that we built for Technique probably stands out as a real kind of milestone. It was a huge kind of structure and ended up being a landmark in Peterhead for quite a long time when it wasn't working offshore. But that was really a bit of a step change in the types of equipment that we were designing and manufacturing. But to a lesser extent, I would also say the start of our Flexley division. I'm a wee bit biased in that respect, but I think that was a real change in how the company operated and the business streams, how basically changed the model of how we made money, really. And I think since probably 2014-15, when that really started, that's really been probably the catalyst for a lot of the growth that we've seen.
Okay.
I actually remember my very first milestone in my head, which is crazy now, but the first time that I saw the physical outcome of a drawing that I'd done, which was, I think, a couple of bits of steel plate welded together. But I remember thinking, oh my goodness, like something I've drawn.
Yeah, it's almost
actually,
like
come to life, because you spend your uni days drawing things that never see the light of day.
yeah, seeing that project kind of happen, and you've been a part of that from the start.
Yeah.
What about early 2010s then? Subsea 7 winches.
Yeah. So we won an order to supply Subsea 7 with 3 other PLSV vessels that operate down in Brazil. So we were kitting all of those vessels out with a suite of 10 winches each, with what we call an overboard and tensioner OBT. So that was a significantly busy period.
And back then, MDL wasn't the size. You were a relatively small player, probably up against some bigger players. What was that like? How do you feel you kind of won this against some competitors? What made MDL back then stand out to win a piece of work like this?
I think Derek's got a lot to do with that, in terms of how Derek operated and how he went a lot about his business. And I think really that kind of can-do attitude, I think, has served us well over the years. And you mentioned the One Team MDL, and I think maybe to external people that might sound a wee bit cheesy, but I think one of our core values is driven by people, and that's so true, really. Again, no, it sounds cheesy, but I think that is a really true thing. And I think the people that have been involved, like you maybe pick up on some of the kind of team spirit things over the years, but I think it's just that kind of can-do attitude, and always, working hard, always like overachieving, really, probably over the years. And I think that's still to this day kind of served us well, and it's important we don't lose that,
Exceeding these expectations.
Yes.
I've also heard about you're going to have to keep me right on this, but a horizontal lay system that was delivered within 10 weeks?
Yes. So that was for one of my projects, and when we were kind of starting up with in the flex lay division. So we won a project that we needed a horizontal lay system, which was not something that we had in the fleet at the time. So that was kind of testament to the engineering in-house, the manufacturing, that kind of everybody mucking in together to make something happen in such a short space of time, to get it ready for the client's mobilisation date. So that was a big challenge at the time, but probably looking back, there's 5 or 6 different examples that are very similar, that we won something, and then it's right, everybody muck in and let's make it happen,
What does 10 weeks look like in terms of a lead time? I have no kind of concept of this. Is that tight? Is that extreme?
Well, it depends what you're building, but for a horizontal lay system, it's extremely aggressive, I would say.
Yes.
It might take 6 months to a year, probably, normally, to build something like that. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Right, big question for a pair of architects, now experts in your field. Coolest piece of equipment designed by MDL, what would you say that would be?
I'll go first. I think mine would be the 800-ton RDS, and that was for a client, Oceaneering, that we built that system for. It's based on one of our well-known RDSs in our rental fleet, our Generation 3, but it's a scaled-up version, a beefier unit, if you like. But there was just things about that system. It was big. It was electric drive. We had different power source voltages to accommodate. So there was just a lot of things in there that were challenging at the time. But it's often those things that you look back on and think, that was, we overcame them, and the output was a machine that I just thought looked good and worked great.
Does a build and a project like that, how does that change a business like MDL? What does it mean?
I guess it gives you the confidence to then go out and shows the market, your clients, that you can deliver what you say you can. In MDL's history, it's always just led to bigger things. You do something that you think's impressive, and then you get an order for something even bigger and more complex, and then you go and do that, and suddenly that's just part of your wheelhouse, and it's just what you do day to day.
And with that comes growth, I guess.
Yes.
And is there anything that stands out, Alexander, for you as a cool piece of kit?
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased, as I said. I think all our kit is cool, but I think what's cool about MDL kit, let's say specifically, is really, as I said earlier, MDL have designed and built equipment for a lot of years, but when we decided to enter the market to hire equipment as part of our flex fleet, we didn't want to just build equipment that was the same as what was on the market. So for every piece of equipment, whether it's a tensioner or a reel drive system or winches, we've always tried to introduce some sort of innovation along the way and make it different to what's already available in the market. So it's difficult to pick one thing that's really, really cool in that, because there's a lot of different pieces to a lot of different equipment. I think probably the most recent example would be the wheeled horizontal lay system. So we mentioned before about delivering an HLS in 10 weeks, which was a big challenge, a number of years ago. Last year we built one with a wheel, which is really cool for decommissioning projects, which again is kind of forward thinking and looking at not just the kind of way things have always been done, but how can we do things differently to bring a new solution to the market. So I think that's pretty cool.
And it sounds like a lot of your solutions, am I right in saying, are quite bespoke? Is that unique within this market? It sounds like you're doing a lot tailored specifically for needs. Is there off-the-shelf options? You've spoke about how you always add innovations. How is that perceived by the client?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of equipment on the market, and not everything that we do has to be bespoke. We can do run-of-the-mill projects as well, obviously. We'll probably just talk about the bespoke ones a bit more. But I think that's kind of, clients appreciate coming to MDL for that, because we can do the, let's say, run-of-the-mill type projects and do them really well, but often no two projects are the same. So if there's something quirky that comes along, then clients can put their trust into us, and we can, whether it's designing something bespoke or doing something a slightly different way, we've got that can-do mindset and innovative thinking within the company to facilitate that.
Okay. So 12 years, you've seen significant success and significant growth in the business, but with growth probably comes challenges and pain points along the way. What's been the most challenging part of your journey? Who wants to take this first? Stephen, it's been deferred to you.
Challenges. There's always challenges. And often they come down to you're trying to do stuff in a shorter time than it probably would normally take.
So pressures regarding time constraints are quite common.
Time constraints, I guess just we've never stopped growing as a business. So we're all, as we said earlier, we're always doing, going that step beyond and making sure we are growing and improving and stuff. So it almost feels like a constant challenge, if you like. But there's been times where we've had a lot on the go at once, and that's just something you can't control. Clients don't just come along one after another and execute projects one after another, so you've got to be agile and nimble that way.
And I guess that's the importance of this One Team MDL, the agility and the culture that you've got, that everyone wants all these projects to be a huge success.
That's right. And just to kind of add to what Stephen said, I think probably one of the challenges is that growth in personnel in the company as well. And I think, when we started, we're probably 30, 40 people, and now we're almost at 200. So I think the challenge that comes with that as well is getting the right people to come in and to embrace that kind of culture and the can-do attitude, and that sometimes can be a challenge as well. So I think that's something MDL's done quite well over the years, is recruiting good people, and good people wanting to work with good people, I guess, is important.
And I guess people kind of leads nicely on to this next question. I believe there's a bit of a special tradition for a 10-year anniversary at MDL.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about
10
this?
years before me, but so that's kind of something that's been, I guess, probably famous within MDL. And I think when it was first mentioned to me, I thought, well, that'll never happen. I'll never be here for 10 years, and here we've surpassed it. But the tradition is that in 10 years you get a watch, basically, for your 10-year anniversary. So yeah, mine was a couple of years ago, and Stephen's maybe the year before that.
3 years, yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. And I think obviously when we started the company, we started at the company, there was a lot less people then, so it's a big gesture from Derek to do that. But I think as the company's growing, he must be getting worried for a few years' time.
I can imagine.
Even more people, maybe 10 people per year, getting to 10 years. That'll be a challenge for him.
What do you think? What's the reason that you have stayed with the business for so long?
Well, I'm beyond 10 years, so you can't just, I can't be accused of just waiting for the watch. So that's one thing. But I think it comes down to a couple of things. The people is the main thing. You know, you don't want to come to your work every day unless you're surrounded by good people, because you need to work together, you need to rely on each other, you need to make it fun. So people for sure, and just no 2 days are the same.
Yeah.
And that's through the business itself, with the growth, the change in facilities, but the projects that you're working on as well are, you know, always different in some way. So the variety is great. Yeah.
So variety, culture, and a great team. Would you agree with all of that, Alexander?
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and I think for me as well, it's about being part of something as well. You know, like I think when we started, as I said, it's a complete different company now. So people maybe think, oh, you've stayed at the same company for 12 years, but MDL's not the same company as it was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think by being on that journey, you kind of, there's a sense of achievement and you know, kind of being part of that you want to stay part of that and see where we go next, because there's always kind of been another step to take a more exciting step.
And speaking of the future, let's wrap this up with a final question. It's a biggie. What would make you stay another 12 years? Is that a nervous laugh?
More of the same, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, just leading on from the answers there, but yeah, more variety, pushing the boundaries. You know, staying at the forefront of what we do in the industry, and pushing those boundaries. So I think that's for me. As long as it's interesting, you know, MDL's place I want to be at.
Yeah, I agree.
Good, and we've got that on tape, so thank you very much. So thank you so much again for your time on the podcast today. It's been really interesting to hear about your journeys here at MDL. That's all we've got time for on this episode. Thank you for listening to MDL Voices. To explore more stories, case studies, or to find out how MDL can support your next project, visit maritimedevelopments.com and connect with the team behind the expertise. Until next time, trust the experts and stay tuned for more insights from One Team MDL.